Welcome to 247 Real Talk. I'm your host, Julian Perry. It's a pleasure to be here with you once again for another episode of the 247 Real Talk podcast. I hope you had a great week since we last spoke. I always say that because I really do. And the fact is, we're going into more spring-like and even summer-like weather, and we've had quite a few 80s here in New York, and it's been such a pleasure to see the days lasting longer and being able to be more productive rather than those dark evenings at 4 o'clock when it's night and you don't know what to do with yourself. So I'm very happy and very excited about the summer up ahead, even though I'm quite aware that I have a long list of things to do. And before I know it, I'll be packing away everything for winter. But, I will be optimistic. We're at the beginning and not the end. And so I'm looking forward to all things to come. As I said, I hope you had a great week. I thank you for all of those who once again continue to subscribe to this channel. Another few hundred subscribers since the last episode. And that gives me a lot of hope, a lot of optimism, a lot of energy, and a lot of drive. People continue to download and listen to the audio version, but I'm so encouraged by the amount of people that's subscribing to the YouTube video version. I have not done an episode for a long time that was really focused in on student loans. And so I'm going to take the time to revisit that subject tonight because I want to keep it in the news, especially as we continue on this road to November and we look at what's going on with people who are struggling to make ends meet. So sit back, relax, and I'll be right back. And so I'm back, and again, thank you for being here with me. It won't be a long episode. I think the last few times I've said that, you have managed to keep my promise. So let's get into this. I'm going to be reading some things. If you people on YouTube see me looking down, I'm going to be reading a little bit from my tablet that's in front of me because I want to get some facts in here. So as of an article I read that it was about 6 days ago was the last time from Yahoo Finance. 18 states are standing against a plan by President Biden that will forgive millions of dollars in student loans. Now let's set this up by understanding that so far, and I've acquiesced to this before, that initially I was very critical of President Biden. I was very critical of his handling of the student loans, the income-driven repayment plan, which I still think needs a lot of work. But he has been a man of his word, and he has, despite losing the court case, which probably was a blessing in disguise. That court case initially for student loan forgiveness, where he wanted to forgive $10,000 or $20,000, and the Republicans all went to court, especially including those who got millions of dollars in PPP loans forgiven, and they got it blocked. But $10,000 and $20,000, I said at the time, was a drop in the bucket as compared to what people needed. And it turns out that losing that case caused him to think outside the box and be more innovative and to look at what was already existing in education laws that was more difficult for others to challenge because there are existing laws and there are things too within the power of the Department of Education that don't require Congress. He used those options. One of the things I know he did was he looked at how people who had public service loan forgiveness were paying towards their loans. If you remember, I think it was under President Obama, where I think he was the one who put into place, if you made 120 consecutive payments, that the rest of your loans would be forgiven. One of the things I know Biden did was remove the word consecutive, understand that people have challenges, and made it more about making 120 payments. He also recognized that a lot of people were not paying consolidated loans. And he used that technicality, like everyone does, to his advantage. I'll explain. When I went to college, you would take out a loan for each semester. At some point, they would come to you and ask you if you wanted to consolidate. Sometimes one or two of them are for the year. But generally speaking, you could go through 2 semesters a year. You could go through 4 years of college, which was 8 semesters. And you could have 8 individual loans. Now, if you were making payments to each one of those loans, something that I even did, then what the loophole I think they used was to say, well, you didn't make a payment this month. You made 8 payments this month. And so they were able to get to the 120 required payments for a lot more people who were struggling. Now, I know some people out there are going to say, oh, that's not right, that's not fair. Who says it's not? They were individual loans. And the fact of the matter is, all he's trying to do is help people live their lives, understanding that cost of living has gone up and salaries have not matched. People of color, I'll say it again, are still dealing with the same systemic racism and the struggle to get equal pay. Women are still struggling to get equal pay. People of the LGBTQI community are still dealing with discrimination, not getting jobs and not getting equal pay. So how is it fair? When I went to college, and forgive my memory, it's been quite a while, I'm going to venture to say that my education, if I went full-time a semester, was between $3,000 and $4,000 a semester. So let's round that off for 2 semesters. Let's say I went and I did, let's say I didn't do summer and I did $8,000 a year. Well, I checked a few years ago to see what tuition was at that same university. I'm not going to call the name. But at that time, it was $32,000 a year. It was $16,000 a semester. So if I was paying 8 and now it's 32, that's an increase of 4 times what I was paying. If we look back then, people who came out of college with a bachelor's could get a job, let's say around between $65,000 and $80,000, depending on what you studied, etc. Right? But let's use the low end. Let's say that you would come out with an average of $60,000 a year for a job. Well, if you came out with $60,000 a year for a job, and you were paying $8,000 per year for 4-year degree, $8 each year, and now it's 32, well, the tuition increased 4 times. So for those people who want to say, well, I went to college, I spent $30-something thousand in college, I paid it back, so they should have to pay it back. Then if you want to be that fair, and you can, then if tuition increased 4 times, then the average person coming out of college with a bachelor's, that was $60,000 then, should be offered $240,000 a year starting salary, right? 4 times versus 4 times. Now, I know I'm doing that in a vacuum, but at the same time, we can quantify it and validate it by the fact that cost of living has skyrocketed, especially in places like New York. I think the average cost of an apartment in New York City, Manhattan, hit $4,200 a month's rent last week. Now imagine that. Now I understand not everyone's going to live in Manhattan, but it hasn't changed across New York. Housing is expensive. I see houses on the market every day because I get updates from Redfin and those real estate companies. And you would be surprised, for $500,000, if you bought a house for $500,000 with a nice piece of decent-sized land, and you wanted to live in it and be comfortable, you need to put about $100,000 to $140,000 in repairs. If you wanted a house that was move-in ready right now with, let's say 2-bath, 4-bedroom house, in Long Island, in Nassau County, in Suffolk County, you're probably looking at between mid-60s and upper 7s. So, what do you say? That when you and I went to college and we paid $30,000, $8,000 a year times 4 years, $32,000 for college, and we paid it off. A person who is now paying 32,000 times 4, that's $128,000 for a bachelor's, is in the same category we are, without getting the starting salary of $240,000 a year. Now, there's another part of it that really bothers me. If your issue with student loan forgiveness is ethical, if you feel there's a moral and ethical component that you want to stand on, if your argument is based on that, then I should not be able to tie you to any political ideology. But the 18 states that are now suing to stop student loan forgiveness are all led by Republicans. And I'm going to list them. I'm going to list them because you need to know. Alphabetical order: Alabama, Alaska, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Texas, and Utah. So, is it coincidence that Republican-led states are suing a Democratic president over student loan forgiveness? Let's remove the Democratic president for a moment. Is it coincidence that all of the states that are suing to stop helping people who are desperately in need are all from states that are run by Republican ideology? There is a stark line in the sand here. Why is it that people feel so obligated to go to court to stop the court from helping another American citizen? Forget about political ideology, forget about gender, forget about race, creed, or color. An American citizen. We just celebrated Memorial Day this past Monday. And if you ever took the time to look at the faces of those thousands of American soldiers who have died in different wars, they are every single race, creed, and color. They shed their blood as Americans. They died protecting the freedoms that both Democrats, Republicans, every single American citizen enjoys. Doesn't matter who is your presidential candidate, what your ideology is, whatever you enjoy. If you are filthy rich, if you are struggling, if you are low, medium, upper class, the fact is you still enjoy certain freedoms that people, American citizens of every race, creed, and color shed their blood to protect. And I say American citizens there loosely, right? Because while there are many jobs in America that you cannot have unless you're a citizen, there are many people who have resident alien cards, green cards, who were able to join the military, go to war, be killed, and then be posthumously given American citizenship as we stand over their flag-draped coffins. We need a stark reality check. We have members of Congress go to Washington each and every day and fight over how much aid we're going to send to Ukraine, how much aid we're going to send to Israel, How much of the American people's money, because remember, the money of America belongs to the people, not to the politicians. The money belongs to the country. The politicians are elected to run the country and be the bankers and the financial decision makers. But you are willing to take the American citizens' money from the country of America and send it to Ukraine by the trillions, because Ukraine now has gotten trillions of dollars worth of aid packages. You're willing to send it in the form of money and arms and all of those things to Israel. But you are not willing to forgive $30,000 and $40,000 from an American citizen because the bill is too high. Do you think that if you stop sending aid to all of those countries, you'd have enough money to help your own people? And then what's worse, it's not like people from Ukraine and Israel and all those countries are coming to America or going to the United Nations and saying, hey, they're giving the American people their money and they need to help us. It is the American citizens who are saying you're willing to give away our money, ours, America, to others to fight wars, but you're not willing to spend any of it on me to live a peaceful, decent life. And furthermore, you're willing to use it as a political tool, Republican against Democrats, rich against poor. You're willing to make sure that you do everything to preserve the socioeconomic divide between the wealthy and the poor and between people of color and white Americans. Let's face it. While there are a lot of people of color, a decent number of people of color there who are millionaires, they do not represent the mass majority of millionaires and billionaires. And it's not for lack of effort or entrepreneurship. It is the doors that we have had to struggle to get open for one person to climb through and then wait for the other one to be able to be allowed to follow. We have an obligation as Americans to put Americans first. We have an obligation as Americans to help our American people before we look outside our borders to help others. Charity begins at home. When the Republicans are running for office or the Democrats are running for office, whose votes are you seeking? Whose vote puts you in office? Is it the people of Ukraine and Israel and Iraq and Syria, wherever? Is it those people who go to the polls? Or is it the same American people who you are refusing to help that go to the polls to elect you with a sincere hope that you will have a heart, that you will be a decent human being, that when you elected a politician, you don't throw your decency aside the minute you land in Washington. That you have this desire to help the American people, black, white, LGBTQI, male, female, whatever the identification, the only unique one they need is that we are all Americans. While everyone is hearing me preaching, many people may say, you're preaching to the choir. But I'm here to tell the choir, which is us, that if we rise up in enough numbers, our voices will drown out Washington. See, people in Washington understand the political game. They understand the art and have masterminded the art of brainwashing. They understand human emotions enough to put one of us against the other. They understand enough about human behavior to put black against white, to put male against female, to put targets on the backs of LGBTQI community, to put targets on the back of Democrats or Republicans. They understand well how we get so tied up in things that are unimportant that it's easy for them to use us as pawns. There are certain things about Generation Z that I'm looking back and admiring because it seems that they are more willing to go back to the fundamentals of life, human life, about the quality of life, about what's more important, not the color of our skins, not our gender, but the quality of our lives. Things like health care, things like the ability to earn an equal income and an honest income for an honest day's work. Things to be rewarded for the sacrifices of education or entrepreneurship. Things that mean that education costs need to be lowered and education institutions need to go back to being about educating and not about Wall Street and the profit margin and how many millions they can pay their presidents of the colleges. Why does a president of a college need to earn millions of dollars? Why can't they earn like you and I do each and every day when we go to work with the same degree from their college or their university? We are so confused and so twisted that we completely are swallowed up and completely brainwashed into the fight that Washington wants us to be in. So that we could be used as pawns each and every 2 years to the House of Representatives, every 4 years for the rest. To put these people back into office. We are the ones who complain about the aristocracy in Washington, but we are the ones who are guilty of ensuring that that aristocracy lives on. Every so often we rock the boat, right? America did something historical. We rocked the boat with President Obama. We rocked the boat with the current first female vice president. But we're only willing to go so far. We are not willing to look at someone and say, you lack the decency, you lack the morals and ethics to represent America as the most powerful, most decent, most ethical, most honest, most democratic nation in the world. We have become a laughing stock for many other countries because they once followed our model, and now their model is better than ours. And they're looking at us and saying, how can you call yourself leaders when look at your court system, look at your criminal justice system, look at your racial inequality, look at what's going on in your country that's not happening in theirs. We need to go back to being proud Americans, where the unique identifier and the only identifier that matters is American. We need to support each other. We need to make changes in this country, drastic changes, as quickly as possible. Changes that put the fear of God in Washington and for them to understand that to keep their jobs, they have to go back to the fundamentals of being elected by the people, for the people. Each and every week I come on this program and I beg you to get involved. And I know when I started to get involved, I didn't know how. But I'm giving you an avenue, a method, a path to how. I will be the one who will gather you. I do get emails every week at podcast@247realtalk.net from many people. For those who know me personally, I get WhatsApp messages. But I do get not only encouragement, but ideas. I get a lot of videos and media about things that are going on in America and around the world. About cases of blatant racism in America where people commit racist acts and then the whole racist regime behind them makes excuses to protect them. And the crazy thing about it is, over the last few months, I've unfortunately lost many or several people I know. Hispanic, white, black, and they were all people I would either call friends or acquaintances. One of them I think of particularly lived in a pretty fabulous house and was pretty well-to-do. And he died. He was maybe 60-something. I know that most of us don't want to die at 60-something. If given our choice, we want to live a long and happy life. We want to see our children and grandchildren grow up. We want to be here to see what the world does next in technology and in medicine. We wanna be here to live and love and laugh and enjoy our loved ones. When we spend our time quietly in the background, making changes and making decisions that hurt other human beings, do we get some sort of satisfaction from that? Do you think that when you lay on your deathbed before you take your last breath, that all that you did to hurt someone else matters? Do you ever wonder when you go to church, and American churches are filled with millions of people who believe or who say they believe in our Creator and our Almighty. But when they leave church, they go out and they go back to Washington, wherever, and they make decisions to hurt the very people that the same Creator they worship created. For one moment, do you believe that you can go, since you're a believer and you're going to church and you're worshiping, do you think you can say to the Almighty Creator, I didn't mean it. I know I hurt him. I know I did bad things, but I didn't mean it. I just wanted to have a better life than them. I knew it was right. I knew it was wrong. Because I went to church every Sunday and I worshiped and I read the Word and I knew that what the Bible said, how to live my life. But I didn't want to do that. Whether you believe or not, I always tell people the Bible is still a good book to live by. The lessons that it teaches you and the way you should live your life is enough for you to become a decent human being. We have to make a change now. We have to unglue ourselves from our lives that we feel are so involved and so hectic and so important that we have no time to help ourselves or to help others or to make a change. Let me tell you, each and every week I come to you with an episode. Up to this past week, someone said to me, how do I start a podcast? And when I started telling them what goes into it, and if depending on whatever topic they choose or whatever subject area, whatever niche, what it will require as they record more episodes and need to find not only interesting content, but content that really impacts their niche, the kind of work preparation it takes, the kind of monetary investment it takes in lighting and mics. And each and every week you see me, for example, I'm not sure if you're hearing the hum, and I'm hoping you're not, but I just installed this evening a brand new air conditioner that promises to be studio friendly. It has and I'm going to hold this up. It has a mute mode, and it's on right now. And the mute mode mutes the air conditioner, not the cooling. Because my studio is not large, it's a home studio, and I've got so much equipment in here that's always running. All the network equipment for this home, all the network equipment for this studio, all the security systems that are around my home, every single thing you can think of, all the editing equipment, all the cameras, all the monitors, all the mic, everything is in this room. So it can get, especially in the summer, it gets incredibly hot and needs to be cooled or I'll damage tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment. When I start to tell people that you can start a podcast with a cell phone and nothing else, you can do a podcast with a cell phone. But as your audience grows and people are looking to connect with you, depending on your subject matter and whether you're having a jovial, jokey, non-serious podcast or something like this, people want to connect with you with a conversation. People want to see that you're invested in bringing something better and sincere. I want to be better and sincere. I want to get to the point one day where I know it doesn't now, but where eventually everything around me looks like I have NBC's or ABC's budget. I want you to sit back and relax and then listen to me and enjoy everything that I bring to you in terms of quality, lighting, sound, and content. So it takes a sacrifice. It takes a willingness to sacrifice. I have to be up in the morning for work, and I'm recording this. It is 11:16 at night. I still have to, it's a Wednesday, so I still have to edit this podcast and have it delivered to you as I usually do at 5 a.m. on Friday morning. Then as soon as I do that, I prepare for the next one. I'm getting closer and closer to bringing in live guests. I'm working, as I told you last time, on a few audio issues to get some noise out or filtered out. And even that, a little change. You know, some of you may be car racing fans or souped up car fans. You might like to go to the track. I know one particular friend who has a car and he puts everything into it. And that's his relaxation. I bring up this analogy because when you get to a certain level, when you spend money and you get your car to a certain level, to get 10 horsepower more out of it can cost you $10,000. When you get your studio and your sound, your environment and equipment, and when I say equipment, what I'm using to record now, what I'm recording to you on right now has 3 levels of redundancy in case something fails. So, you know, you can't put all this effort into an episode and then something happens and you only had 1 copy. So every episode, as I record to you, is recorded 3 times at 3 different, you know, I have my A roll and then B roll at 3 different formats. All of this to get a little better, more consistent, and make sure that I deliver. To go from this one set of audio, one level, to a little better, where you might not hear it, but me being in the studio editing with headsets on, high-end headsets where you hear everything, I hear it. And for me to go that much more up requires that much more investment. I say all this to say that it's commitment. I am committing to you that I will not stop. I said it at episode 1. And I believe, I could be wrong, but this has to be about episode 205 or 206 at this point, and counting. I am committed to helping you. I am committed to speaking out about your cause. I'm committed to pursuing freedom, joy, health, happiness, peace for all Americans, and for anyone else I can help around the world. Join me. Again, the email is podcast@247realtalk.net. Do your part. If for some reason your life is so tremendously busy that you can't and you want to right now, send me a word of encouragement or just let me know that you're interested anyway. And do what you can in terms of sharing the podcast. Like, comment if you can, and share. Share it to people you know will be interested, and share it to people who won't be interested. Because not everyone starts out interested. But many people have converted and have become great supporters of this show. So I thank you so much again for another episode this week. I hope that President Biden continues his push to reform income-driven repayment and to get student loan forgiveness by going through all those loopholes that the rich use. That's okay for them. We must exploit the same for those who have real struggles. Thanks again for this opportunity, for this privilege. It's another week. It's been another episode of the 247 Real Talk podcast. Until the next time, as I always ask you, please take care of yourselves and each other.